Member for Vieux-Fort North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I suspect many of us did not come here to debate today, but the events of the last few minutes have caused me to go very far and deep to research history, to put a few things right in this House, Mr. Speaker. This whole debate on VAT and the oppressive 15% as is being proposed by the other side, and the debate about who put VAT and who said it was oppressive and who set up structures and so on, Mr. Speaker. I want you, Mr. Speaker, to give me a little time. Because first of all, Mr. Speaker, I will read an NTN speech on 7th December 2009 by the former Prime Minister and now member for Castries North. I'll read the whole thing. I will also read, Mr. Speaker, 2 pages of the speech given by the former Prime Minister, the late Sir George Melvin Compton, on VAT. And I really want you to give me the time, Mr. Speaker, because there are times people come into this House, especially members opposite, the member for Castries Southeast, and I heard the member for Ancillary Canneries, and it is to parade and to play, Mr. Speaker. But I'm going to read, and I want those who are listening on television and who are watching to go to the NTN website and get the 7th December 2009 report, a speech by the former Prime Minister, the member, now member for Castries North. And I also want them to go to the website, go to the internet, and get the 2007 budget address by Sir George Melvin Compton. And I have an hour, so I'm going to take my full hour, Mr. Speaker, to go over these parts, to go over these speeches, and allow the people, because apparently some members inside of here believe that they can just come and fool people. I want the people to read for themselves. Don't just listen to me, the member for Vieux-Fort North. Read for yourself. And I wish to pause probably for a little second to allow members inside of here and people outside to get their computers. And I quote the first one. It's a speech given by the now member for Castries North, and we are going to find out where the 15% came from. And so if now you are government who believe that your 15% was too rough, and you take it out, say so. Because I'll tell you where the 15% came from. December 7th, 2009. And I quote, "Ladies and gentlemen," and this is from the member of Parliament for Castries North, former Prime Minister, the former leader of the United Workers' Party. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce that the Cabinet of Ministers, at its meeting on 18th November 2009, approved a number of policies related to the implementation of the value-added tax in St. Lucia. Before I give details on the approved policies, let me provide you with some brief background information to the introduction of VAT in St. Lucia. You will recall that discussions on the introduction of VAT within the OECS started as early as 2003. This policy was reiterated in the 2007-2008 budget address by the former Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, the Honorable Sir John Compton. In fact, by introducing the VAT, the government of St. Lucia is abiding by the decision taken in July 2003 by the Monetary Council, the highest decision-making body of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, to approve the implementation of VAT in the ECCU as recommended by the OECS tax commissioners. Since the decision of the Monetary Council, Antigua, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have already implemented VAT, while St. Kitts and Nevis, like St. Lucia, is preparing to do so soon. Grenada has already committed to implementing the VAT in February 2010. The rate is coming. As stated by the then Prime Minister in the 2007 budget, meaning the late Sir John Compton, and as has been repeatedly emphasized by the VAT implementation team, the VAT will not be an additional tax, but will replace a number of other indirect taxes. Cabinet, by conclusion number 1074 of 29th November 2007, approved the establishment of the Value-Added Tax Implementation Project Office, the Value-Added Tax Implementation Project Office, with the mandate to prepare St. Lucia for the implementation of a VAT system in the most effective manner. The staff of the project office has done a tremendous amount of work in educating the public on VAT and how the new system works. However, specific information on how the new system will affect individual taxpayers have not been disclosed, as the VAT policies were only recently approved by the VAT Steering Committee and Cabinet. With the approval of the VAT policies, the project office will now be in a position to meet the various stakeholders, including the business community, trade unions, churches, sports and social clubs, and other community organizations, to explain in precise terms how the VAT works and the likely impact on the membership of these organizations. As part of the public sensitization, Cabinet has mandated that the staff of the project office demonstrate the impact of the VAT on the prices of a typical basket of goods and services, so that the public will be better informed of how VAT is likely to impact on them. A white paper has been prepared for public consultation and will be used in disseminating information on the VAT policies during the consultation. I take this occasion to ask members of the public to avail themselves of the opportunity to be educated about VAT and to ask the pertinent questions at the various presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, government views the introduction of VAT as part of its strategic policy response in modernizing the tax system and thereby building the resilience of the economy to vulnerability and external shocks. The need for this strategic approach has become even greater in light of the impact of the global recession, which calls for greater resilience in the structure of our economy and to build a fiscal space necessary for government to produce the kind of policy response required. The VAT has been proposed as the preferred option, as this tax is considered a more efficient, simplified, and modern form of indirect taxation. The VAT, which is a tax on consumption, is a broad-based tax, resulting in increased revenue and reductions in relatively high tax rates. The policies that have been approved I continue to quote, Mr. Speaker. The policies that have been approved by Cabinet are as follows. 1. A standard VAT rate of 15% and a rate of 0% for goods and services in the zero-rated list. These goods and services include goods produced for export and agricultural inputs. A VAT registration threshold for companies transacting businesses to the value of EC 120,000 per annum. The replacement of the following taxes and fees with VAT: consumption tax, motor vehicle tax, cellular phone tax, environmental levy. Exemption from the payment of VAT on the list of supplies, including basic food items, financial services, medical services, prescription drugs or medicines, transportation with a driver, among others. Mr. Speaker, unquote. The rest of it is there. But I wish to make the point, Mr. Speaker, that here we have members of the same party. They're standing as if, you know, they have nothing to do with VAT. It's all the Labour Party. And the Labour Party put 15% VAT and all of that. Here I have quoted one of the senior members who was deep in the belly of the implementation of VAT. You heard the words, Mr. Speaker. He was the Minister for Finance. All I'm saying to you, if you have decided that you have a change of heart, say so. Don't come here pretending as if you had nothing to do with VAT. That's my point. My point is not that you cannot change your mind. My point is stop being hypocritical about this thing.
Who said VAT was oppressive?
This is my point in this honorable house.
Who said that?
And I have more quoting. The Prime Minister said I have 40 minutes. I'm going to use every single minute of it. Because now, Mr. Speaker, I will go to the quotes from the former Prime Minister, which really gave the underlying basis and all of the reasons for the United Workers' Party government why they thought they should introduce VAT. So don't, that's my point, you know, Mr. Speaker. Don't come here pretending as if you had nothing to do with it. Come here and say, yes, we put everything in place, you introduced it, you came to Parliament, but we believe that the 15%, which we suggested at the time, and so we're changing it. But don't try to bamboozle the people of St. Lucia. I never said that. You hear what you want in the left ear. You hear what you want through the left ear. And I'm also going to quote, Mr. Speaker. In a while, I'm coming with the VAT white paper by the United Workers' Party. They have a whole white paper. And to justify things, the white paper started by saying VAT started in 1948. I have all that there, you know. I've told him I don't do it on my records. Everything is here. So let us go to Sir John, the deceased Sir John George Melvin Compton. And, you know, they speak so eloquently about him. Sometimes. When they don't want to juke his memory in the back. But anyway, Mr. Speaker, I think it's very important as a parliamentarian, as a member of Parliament for Vieux-Fort North, even if those opposite don't care and suck their teeth, for my constituents to understand the history of this thing. And I've given them the sources. It's not just on my phone. It is on the internet. Go and look for it. I want to quote, Mr. Speaker, the former Prime Minister, who was leader of the United Workers' Party in 2007. And I want to quote where he spoke about VAT. Because I want to lay the basis for the foundation arguments about VAT. We can talk about changing our minds, that's okay. But let us lay the ground rules, the basis for the arguments. On pages 41 and 42 of the 2007 budget address by former Prime Minister deceased Sir John George Melvin Compton. And I quote, Madam Speaker, this is Sir John George Melvin Compton speaking in 2007, right here. I was in the House at the time, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, and I quote, while we apply all of the debt containment and debt management strategies of this administration, we will be able to realize economic growth. This government will seek to grow the economy at an accelerated rate to increase the size of the GDP while ensuring that there is equity in the distribution of the benefits from that growth. Madam Speaker, if, as we anticipate, we are able to grow the economy while containing the level of debt, we will effectively reduce debt to GDP ratio, bringing it down to well within the prudential limits. Tax reform and fiscal planning, Madam Speaker, I wish to highlight at this point that St. Lucia is confronted with major issues relating to rising fiscal deficits and a burgeoning debt stock. If not addressed immediately, this could stymie the very growth and development that we are embarking on. A comprehensive fiscal stabilization and reform program is required to correct these growing imbalances and to place St. Lucia on a more sustainable path towards growth and development. Sir John Compton continues. In this regard, this government will undertake a comprehensive review of our tax system in order to improve our fiscal situation, reduce debt, and onerous debt service burden. This proposed tax reform will seek to ensure a system fairer and more equitable. Madam Speaker, in these days of globalization, with the impact of the WTO rules and the CSME, the economy must change, and so too must the tax systems that regulate it. The leader of the opposition is no stranger to this requirement. Indeed, as Minister of Finance, in his budget address of 2003-2004, he reported to this Honorable House that he had received a copy of the OECS tax reform report prepared by Sir Alistair McIntyre, which was commissioned by the Monetary Council in 2002. This report advised that in light of the shrinking tax base on imported goods and services from WTO arrangements to which they have subscribed, the governments of the OECS should move to a value-added tax. Again, in his 2006-2007 budget presentation to the then Minister of Finance, returned to the subject under the heading Changing Tax Policy Environment. He indicated that government had commissioned a review of the report by a group of citizens and that the report would be released soon for public scrutiny. To date, this important report has not been released. The then Minister of Finance drew attention to the need for tax reform, which he indicated should have been undertaken 3 years previously, but as usual, he procrastinated, said that the matter of tax reform will be considered after election. Although the people of St. Lucia did not give him the opportunity, Madam Speaker, the then Minister of Finance indicated that he would analyze the decision of the OECS on this matter, but they certainly did not wait for him. Dominica introduced VAT in March 2006, Antigua in January 2007, St. Vincent and the Grenadines will act in May, and both Grenada and St. Kitts will be introducing the system later this year. St. Lucia stands on a burning deck while all but she hath fled. That's the quote of the former Prime Minister. I want to just repeat that. St. Lucia stands on the burning deck while all but she have fled in relation to that. But we must get in step with our neighbors and stop playing the political game with so important an initiative. That's Sir John George Melvin Compton. The National Economic Council, appointed to advise government on this matter in April, advised government to adopt a broad-based consumption of value-added tax. Madam Speaker, we have 2 choices: to keep our tax system unchanged and suffer the consequences of a dwindling tax base, or to reform the tax structure to make it more appropriately to the new global and domestic environment. Madam Speaker, this government has made the latter choice. This government will seek external assistance to advise on the implementation of VAT and at the same time to remove a host of nuisance taxes which add little revenue but are serious impediments to business in these modern times. One more line. Government aims for the introduction of the value-added tax within 12 months, that is by May 1, 2008. Unquote. Mr. Speaker, you know why I took all of this time? Whether you implemented it or not, whether you did this or not, it is very important that when I leave this honorable house, that the people of Beaufort North understand that I quoted exactly where the foundations of all of this VAT argument came from. We can tell people that we disagree with it now. We can tell people that even though the OECS agreed that it should be done, we agreed it would be 15%, and we changed our minds. Tell people that. But don't come to the house and make people believe as if you had nothing to do with it. Don't do it. Don't do it, Mr. Speaker. And I can go on and on. I will not take time now, Mr. Speaker, to speak to the what is it there? I have it in my files. The VAT, some white paper, the VAT white paper. And you should see the way they put it, the chronology that they gave in order to convince the people that VAT is the way to go. They started from 1948, and they said what happened in France, and all of that. Say you change your mind. It's not education, it's truth. Yes, but all I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, education and transparency. But yes, but do not Do not come now to play as if you were not in it. That's the only thing I'm saying. Say you have changed your mind. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, tell the people, yes, my hands were in it. Yes, I said 15%, but we changed our mind. And that's it. Don't come here. But Mr. Speaker, let me move on. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me move on quickly. Mr. Speaker, let me move on quickly. I have said before, and I will join my colleagues to say that I support the concessions for the barrels, and the Member of Parliament for Castries East and leader of the opposition has given the history of that. We don't need to go all into it, but I support it. But Mr. Speaker, and the people of my constituency do benefit from barrels, from their relatives, from their family. They have, like everybody else, and so I think that is a good thing for the government to continue. Just very quickly, Mr. Speaker, the member for Castries South East spoke about toys, and he said that all constituencies will be, all parliamentarians will be given toys. I want to say, and the member for Castries North asked me how many I want. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that I would have felt better respected, not as Moses Baptiste, but as a member of Parliament for Vieux-Fort North. For me alone, they can say what they want. But as a member of Parliament for Vieux-Fort North, it would have been a better day had they consulted us, me and my colleagues, on so many other things in the constituency. I have been begging for so many things for my people. A project to give water to Fonkapesh that was stopped, pipes under the ground and nothing, even after I spoke to the member for Babuno. So many things in Vieux-Fort North that are not pronounced that I will get, but toys. Because the way I look at it, it's a way of, giving toys to children. The minister goes on TV and says, I gave the member of Parliament for Vieux-Fort North toys for the children. Mr. Speaker, let me state in this House. The member of Parliament for Vieux-Fort North personally do not want your toys. I will suggest, Mr. Speaker, to the government what to do with the toys of Vieux-Fort North. But although in times past it is the former candidates who get all of those things to distribute. We have the records, the videos, and the pictures. It is the former candidates of the United Workers' Party who get toys to distribute, things from SSDF, checks and all that. So I don't want your toys. If you want to give the people of Vieux-Fort North toys, there's a Bellevue Primary School. The name of the principal is Mrs. Fontinel. The principal of the Vigier Combined School, she's a new lady, very nice lady. Take the toys to her. The Grace Primary School is Mr. Kuman. Take the toys to Mr. Kuman at the Grace Primary School. The Piero Primary School is Mistress Mooney. Take the toys to her. We have 6 early childhood education centers in Vieux-Fort. Take the toys to the administrators of the early childhood education center. Magadi Tucha Vieux-Fort North. Mon Parlement Castries South East Dijodia, ikay ba mwen toys. Mwen pa vle toys li. Ma brise toys li. Tout, nous te ka mette glo en Fonkapesh. Tout ces citernes nan en batea. Défend yo pa ka mette glo ba Jean Fonkapesh. Parce que nous te commencé. L'année chimé ka ale Bellevue. Moi ça m'a depuis continuer défendre. Chimé te vent avec CDP nous commençons à concrete. Chic toujours, yo pas mais à besoin vle ba mes toys. La moi te petit moi ka fait toys avec Bass Coco, avec Cabowe. Si on voulait bailler janvier for of toys, mani pièce problème avec ça. Mais bailler Madame Fontinel en l'école Bellevue à toys là pour ces maman là. Bailler principal Vigia, belle Madame Neff, bailler ces toys là pour ces maman là. Bailler Mrs. Mooney à Pierrot, toys là bailler ces maman là. Et bailler l'école Guasla, toys là. Pas involvement dedans. Because Mr. Speaker, et tous ces preschool là, bailler toys là. Yo kay bien content et moi vle toys là bay c'est ma Vieux-Fort North là. Pas bon moi toys. Ma vle. Every year, Mr. Speaker, the people of Vieux-Fort North through the parliamentary office, we have been organizing our children's play day without help from the government. And we have a children's play day on the Grace playing field on the 22nd of December. I don't need their toys. The children need the toys. What I want them to consult me on, they are not. They are consulting the former candidate, as they've always done. No consultation on playing fields. They did something at Grace up to now. I've never received a letter. Never, as parliamentary rep. Mais jodi as of labor my toys. Après di mani toys. Pour jouer. Bay se maman la toys là. Ek bagay la se moun a brise en bayoy. It's not about me. So don't come here boasting, oh, I'm going to give you toys. How much do you want? It's for the people. And the water at Fonkapesh is for the people. The roads and everything. Mr. Speaker, the member spoke about management, how they are managing well and all of that. It is very clear that this management is not real. The government's favorite tagline is this: the richest race in the Caribbean. That is the government's current tagline, the richest race in the Caribbean. Not the best hospitals in the Caribbean. Not the best schools in the Caribbean. Not the best classrooms in the Caribbean. But the richest race in the Caribbean. All those who can get your large hats and your tuxedos, the richest race in the Caribbean. That's the tagline. That's the kind of management, Mr. Speaker. That's the kind of management. And you want me to tell the people of Beaufort North, the people of Grace, who don't even know whether they will have a road. Because after you mashing up meat processing plants, you may well change the course of the road. He said best management, Mr. Speaker. Best management. While our schools and our hospitals are rotting, but they have the best management. They did not renew contracts of nice workers. But Mr. Speaker, when you go to many of these agencies, while there is no formal NICE program, there is an underhand, secretive kind of placement program similar to the NICE program. Go to St. Jude's, go to many of these places. They quietly go in the communities and select people and do the same thing that the NICE program was doing. And so, what have they done? Even in the STEP program, they said there were no toilets. La pani toilet. Mr. Speaker, you got goumek parliamentary representatives pour STEP là. You got goumek nous pour STEP là qui ont dit la pani li pou vite bay se moun nan, bay se madame là. Mais only come STEP tout partout. Nothing creative from this government. And you're talking about management? You're talking about management? You're talking about management? And all of these taxes, Mr. Speaker, the VAT, which the member for Castle South said they're going to remove this and remove that. Water, VAT on electricity, VAT on funerals. But the same people who will bury their loved ones through the gas tax, the fishers who will bury their loved ones, you are taking $13,000 in taxes, in fuel tax from Tepeshea, $12 million, calculately. The people with FAR funds, you're taking $7,000 to $8,000 in fuel taxes. So when you're trying to say you're taking out from there, you're taking it 10 times next side. You're taking from people with diesel trucks, fuel taxes, $12,000 and $14,000. That's wickedness, Mr. Speaker. And they're talking about reduction. So, Mr. Speaker, as I close, I support the reduction of the removal of the duties on barrels. The Labour Party started it, and we'll never stop saying the reason the Labour Party started it is because we were a compassionate government. We are a compassionate government. We did that. We gave $500 to parents to help them in the after common entrance and so many other things. We're a compassionate government. So don't jump up now as if, oh, it's a good thing, so we're doing it. The good things that we started in our constituencies, you never continued it because of partisan politics. I don't want to respond because the very thing you're saying goes against all grain of goodness and what we should do as good people. So because you think it was done to you, do it. And the tagline, Mr. Speaker, is the richest race in the Caribbean. So that is all this government is about, the richest. The richest, tall horses. They buy the horses, then they now turn solutions, buy back the same horses that our money have to pay for. You ever heard that? Our money have to pay for the thing, but they're telling St. Lucians to buy the thing that our own money paid for. The richest, that's all you're about, the richest race in the Caribbean. So, Mr. Speaker, while I support it, I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that my people in Vieux-Fort North will contribute, will benefit, and I want to reiterate for the last time that I, Moses Baptiste, personally, I do not want the government's toys, personally. And I want to remind the government, I'm saying it publicly, to give the toys to the schools and give the toys to the childhood education centers. We'll have our own children's play day. We have all our things organized, but the toys that the government is giving, give it to the schools and the 6 early childhood education centers in Vieux-Fort North. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.